Other things that it does is it changes the way that the compensation committee is appointed. Typically, the compensation committee in the county is appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. And under the proposed charter, in this case, it's actually being appointed by the county clerk. And that may seem like a minor change, but it does increase the duties and the authority of the clerk. I think it also, what it does is it also, you know, we talked about the representation in the districts, and I think it also has some practical effects potentially with respect to, you know, currently department heads are used to reporting to three board members, and now if you had the 5 board members, I think there'd be some practical considerations that would need to be taken into by the county as far as how it operates from an effectiveness standpoint. There's also some things within the proposed charter that I believe are illegal. And you know, they don't pass constitutional muster from an attorney standpoint. First of all, they require that the justices of the peace would be appointed, and under both the Oregon Constitution and by state law and statutes, justices of the peace are to be elected, and so there's an omission with respect to the proposed charter. Another thing that the proposed charter has that we see that is unconstitutional is it prohibits a public employee from running for county office if they were employed with the county. So, for example, if the current county sheriff decided to not run for election, but let's say the undersheriff wanted to run for election, the undersheriff wouldn't be able to run for the office of county sheriff. He would have to resign his position. Then he would have to declare that he's running for the office under the proposed charter. It's kind of goofy how it reads. There's also some things that are not necessarily illegal, but they're just vague. They're ambiguities within the charter. And for example, when the charter speaks to the election process, and assuming that if the charter is passed, it requires the county clerk to certify the election. Then it requires the county clerk to set certain dates for elections of the new board members. But what's interesting is within the charter itself, there's conflicting provisions as to when those election dates are to be set. One provision in the charter says it's to be, just based on calendaring, it's to be done in September of 2011. And another provision of the charter, 2010. Another provision of the charter, it would be November, it would be the general election, November of 2010. But in a third reading, in a different portion of the charter, it could be January of 2011. So there's ambiguities that are built in within the charter itself, the proposed charter, that are problematic. Just from a, not only just as an attorney, but I think as a layperson, you would want to ensure that if the county was going to be changing its type of governance and its form of governance in a way that is significant enough to essentially run the county for the next 20, 40, 60, 100 years, that it's done right, and it's done right the first time.
Yeah, let's pause right there. I think many may have their heads spinning with all that information with regard to what this proposed charter does. Let's talk for just a minute how we even are getting ourselves into this situation as Marion County citizens, having to vote on such a massive change with such important components and features to it that have a dramatic impact. Typically, when there is an assessment of whether a governance should change or not, there is either a blue ribbon task force or a legislative committee that comes together to debate the pros and cons of each one of those aspects. Was that ever done in this, or how do we get to the point of going from where we are to having to sift through everything that you've described and then have every citizen then vote and then it's done?
That's a really good question. Charters can be put into place, I think, like you said, in essentially two ways. They can be done by petition, initiative petition, which this one is, or by essentially by a committee that would be appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, essentially a citizens blue ribbon task force that would look at all the elements that should be into any sort of a change of the county system or the county structure. In this case, that was ignored. The petitioners in this case are predominantly made up of members of Friends of Marion County, which is an offshoot of Thousand Friends of Oregon. I believe that their intent and purpose is that they believe that this current Board of Commissioners was not listening or not rendering good decisions or good results in land use cases. And so over the past several years, they've been taking it upon themselves to try and build enough support to talk to various people to try and get a petition going in order to get this on the ballot. And so that's what happened in this place, is that at this time is that a number of folks out of Friends of Marion County and other organizations that kind of had the same beliefs or feel like some of the proponents' propositions would be good for Marion County, felt that it was time to change the governance structure from the statutory scheme to the home rule charter scheme. And that's how it came into being.
Okay. Well, I think that lets us know that if there is a need for analysis of governance, there is a better way to go down a path to evaluate what would work best in the future. And obviously, we've taken a shortcut, and now voters are asked to vote on something that has a whole lot of ambiguity to it.